Hello boys and girls. If you've been watching my videos for the last couple of weeks, I've been mentioning something that I've been working on, and I've been a little bit cryptic about it. But I think it's time to let it out into the light what I've been trying to work on to set up. I would like to create a raid team. The general idea would be that people that would be interested would create an alt on the server that I play on, the Alonso's EU server. The raiding night will probably be Thursdays from around 19:30 hours to around 23:30 hours. European time, Central European time. That is also the server time. The idea for this raiding group would be, first of all, to make some videos. Not the instruction types where usually you have those different videos where they're talking about the boss's abilities, what the names of them are, how much damage they do over a certain amount of time, and so on. Now, they're very great. I love those type of videos. They're very, very good for someone like me that is a raid leader. But as a normal, casual raider, you don't necessarily need to know the name of ability or how much damage is done. You just need to know what to do. Do you want to stay out of it? Where do you want to stand? And so on. And so that's what I would like to do. And I feel that that is the type of video that is missing, at least right now. But this also means that sometimes in order to show something, to demonstrate something, that would mean that I would usually be out of the battle for like 20-30 seconds to show this to you. And if you're in a normal raid, people don't know what you intend to do. People are not going to be happy if I suddenly leave the fight for 30-40 seconds to do something before I go back. So this is something that you would have to know that I was going to do. Of course, I would let you know in due time before we were doing this. And it's not something that's going to happen every single time on a boss. If I need to record something, I'm going to do it once or twice, and that's it, never again. Now this will also mean that there's a potential for wipes and such. But that's not a huge problem because that can easily be fixed, especially with the new guild system where the guild can pay for repairs and such. Because the way we're gonna have to do it is that I don't know, because I'm not an officer in a guild that I'm in, and I will still be raiding with them because I want to create a guild for the raid team so we can get the all the perks that we need, including mass rests at one point, the last one, and all those different buffs you get for guild cauldrons and stuff like that. But I am also, like I mentioned earlier, most of you are going to be alts, because the way we're going to get the guild perks to work, 80% of the raid has to be in the party for the guild perks to work. Now this means that if I'm going to create a 10-man, which is the plan, I don't have any plans for 25 men, but of course it depends on how many would be interested in creating this team. That means that there is basically only room for one more main that don't have to be in the guild. Now I'm not in a position because I'm not an officer in a guild, so I can't promise that anyone would get into the guild or anything like that, and the guild perks are needed, and because you are all alts, you're gonna need all the help you can get because you're not gonna play that much. Most people will probably only play the Thursday night while raiding on this character, and that's it. Unless we're planning to have a little bit of fun on a Saturday once in a while, for example, to go do some old raids. You're only going to get the money and the gold from a few quests before we start raiding and during the raid. And we all know how expensive raiding can be, and so we're going to need access to the gold that we collect. And in Cataclysm, when you take down a boss, and even if you only have 8 people contributing to 20%, or no, sorry, 10% of the loot. Oh, I can't remember if it's 10 or 20%. No matter what, if you have 8 people taking down a boss, that means that it's gonna get between 120 and 150 gold for each boss kill into the guild bank. Now that could easily finance everything from flasks or fish feasts. Well, of course, the Cataclysm equivalent to those two things. Now I don't know everything how that works yet, but we could also use, if depending on how much gold actually goes into the guild bank, it could also be used to repair gear and such on all our, instead of having you pay from your own pocket. Maybe we can't do all of it, but maybe every raid night, maybe we could have like 50 or 60 gold given to you that you could use to repair your gear before you had to pay out of your own pocket. Everything we're gonna need to do in order to make it as cheap as possible and that you have to spend as little time as possible to play this character It's not that I don't want you to play on the character, of course I want you to. But because it's an alt, you don't necessarily want to spend a couple of hours every day making gold for the character so you can afford to raid. And by creating a guild where everyone would get access to some degree of the gold, we could at least do what we can to avoid as much time outside of raiding as possible. We're also going to have to try and have all the professions in the guild so that we can make things as cheap as possible when it comes to gearing up or creating stuff needed for the raids or even gear and such. Now personally, I am an enchanter and engineer, so that wouldn't really be needed, but an alchemist or two wouldn't be a bad thing. A couple of people that had herbalism to gather items needed to help out with creating flasks and stuff, that would be a good thing. Having a couple of people helping out with fishing once in a while to give items or whatever is needed in order to create the buff, the fish feast, or whatever it is we need to be able to raid and buff ourselves up in Cataclysm. Now what we would also do is we would have a loot council when it comes to gear and such. We're going to try to have it in such a way that instead of having a few people getting highly geared, we would try to make this so that everyone would be geared about the same time, so that as a group we would get better and better and better as we came along and got more gear. I just mentioned an example. Let's say you have two cloth wearers, where boss A drops a piece of chest piece and boss B drops a pair of pants. And you have two clothies that could use those two items. Instead of having them competing against each other, if you could buy the exact same pieces at a vendor, well, one of them would buy the chest piece and the other would buy the leg piece, so that way they wouldn't be competing against each other for the same piece of gear, because when the chest piece drops, the one that didn't buy it would get that piece, and the other way around for the legs. That also means when it comes to gemming and enchanting and such, we're going to try as much as possible to keep it in-house so we can make it as cheap as possible. That also means that enchanting materials would go to the guild bank. When we have some boss that could be skin, for example, where you would get some high value items, those would get into the guild bank to be helping. And instead of, if we can't use it for creating something, well then we could sell it, nothing else, to get funds. Because I wanted to try to make it everything as effective as possible when it comes to gearing us up, because we're gonna need a lot of time and we're only gonna have chance to gear up in the raids, at least as it stands right now, again with the ults factor. Now what I would like you to do, if you are interested in this, is there is a mail. I'm going to make sure the email address is on the screen, but it's also down in the box, the video information box, whatever you like to call it. It was much easier than when it was back and called a sidebar. Anyway, I would like you to mail and send me a link to your main. Not that you have to move your main, but that could make I could see how much, of course you're going to use the armory, forgot to mention that. But that way I can see how much experience do you have when it comes to raiding, what have you done before, and of course, hopefully, the idea would be that if you like to play let's say your main is a paladin tank, for example, well, I'm going to need it to know that you are a tank and that your alt would be a paladin tank. So we're going to try to build the team up in such a way that we're going to have 2 tanks, 2 healers, and 6 DPS. At least that's the general rule of thumb. We're going to try to have someone that is a DPS but can off-tank if a situation is needed for 3 tanks. Or we're going to need 1 or 2 people that are DPS but can off-spec take care of a little bit of healing if it's needed, just to help out in situations. But otherwise, we're gonna have to try to, as much as possible, to have the same setup of 2 tanks, 2 healers, and 6 DPS. And I think we're gonna try as much as possible to have about 50-50 of ranged and melee DPS. And I'm also gonna do stuff like, we're not gonna have, it can be okay to have another hunter. Of course I play hunter, and it's okay to have another hunter in the group, but a 3rd hunter, that would be too much. Stuff like rogues, warlocks, I would probably not like to have more than 1 of each. So some classes can be okay to have 2 of, others I'm not gonna have more than 1. But the best thing to do is, if you're interested in this, or just to learn a little bit more about it, the best thing to do would be to write an email and let me know what class you play and your spec and such, and let me know how much experience you have. Because this idea is, of course I want to make some videos, but I also want to have some fun. And one of the things that I've been wanting to do for some time is something called live commentary. It's not really something that is that much used in games like Warcraft, because usually games or matches or whatever you're doing takes a little bit of time, but live commentary is basically what it sounds like. Right now, I am recording my audio and it gets edited. Some stuff might get re-recorded and changed around, and you cut and paste and whatever. But live rating would basically be sticking a microphone up your butt. Well, not your butt, but sticking a microphone to your mouth, and you're just talking about what happened. And sometimes something happens, you maybe wah! Or whatever happens during a fight and stuff, and you can react on. Well, that will be recorded, and that can be kind of fun. It's not something that I would do a lot of, but could be a little bit fun once in a while. Now, this also means that I could think about having the voice application being recorded, which means not only when I speak, but when others speak, that will be recorded and go to the videos. That wouldn't be all videos, but sometimes it can be fun or interesting, or because it's needed, because to show you an example of communication, for example. What type of communication is needed to do a specific boss? Well, here's how we do it, and then you can see if that's something that you can use. So you're gonna be prepared to sometimes have your voice on YouTube. Now this also means that, and it's not because I don't like people that are under 18, but I'm gonna have to ask you to be 18 or older, because when you have stuff on YouTube, you are liable for what you're saying. It's not a huge problem or anything, but if you say something that is not good, you can get in huge problems. And if you're not 18, well, then your parents have to be involved and so on and so forth. So it's easier for yourself to make sure that you're over 18. So I hope you will respect that. I'm gonna do what I can to make sure that you are over 18 before you join the team. Also, one thing that I'm gonna need people to respect is basically having normal behavior. How would you act among people? That's the general thumb rule. No cursing, no sexist jokes or racism or whatever. I mean, one thing is that you're doing a sexist joke when we're off the air, so to speak. But when we're gonna record, you're gonna know, okay, right now the audio from the voice server will be recorded. Now, if something happens and you suddenly say a curse word and it happens like once every 2 months, so what's not a problem, that can easily be taken out. But if you curse every other word you say, I can't really use you. So keep that in mind. But you should try to, at that point, to try not to think too much about that this is actually being recorded. If you want to have some fun and create a raid team where you're gonna see your character on the screen once in a while and just have a little fun, well then this is the thing for you. And like I said, don't have to be mains. If you have an ult somewhere that is level 40 or level 50 and you have a couple of thousand gold and you want to pay to move that character, well that's fine. But otherwise, as Cataclysm comes out, it's going to be interesting to start to level from level 1 anyways. Well, why not just start on this server and we could figure out and create the team and have some fun and hopefully get the viewers of the channel to be enjoyed too, because I've always wanted to have you guys, and I've mentioned this before, I've always wanted to have my viewers involved in my videos. I don't want the communication just to be one way, I want it to be two-way. And by getting people involved and maybe even being able to create a raid team where we can have some fun, well, that would be some of the two-way communication that I would love to get. So if maybe you're a new video maker that has a little bit of experience, or maybe you're just thinking about doing some videos or something, whatever it is, you just want to learn a little bit and have a little bit of experience with it, well, this is also a good way to do it. Anyway, just send me an email with a link to your main and what class and race you would like to play in this raid team. And we're going to be Alliance, so if you're a Horde and you just can't play Alliance, well, too bad. We can't switch. We are going to be Alliance. Also, if you do have any questions about this, well, send me an email. I'm going to try to gather up all questions that people have and try to answer them in a video in like a week or two, just so we can get every last information that you would like to get and need. to see if this is possible to do. So thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe and send me an email, and let's see if we can't get this raid team up and running. See ya!